Wow, you can't hear anything. Thank you, Jessica. Okay. Maybe I have to remember to unmute the next time. So then we need to talk again about what we should do. My plan today is to start to build an app using Mobile Blazor Bindings. And you probably have heard about Blazor, but in that is mostly about in the context of web development, because it's what Microsoft speaks about mostly when they speak about Blazor. But you can also use it for mobile app development, and it's using the Xamarin platform for that. You maybe have heard about Microsoft and others speaking about Blazor in the context of the .NET MAUI, and that is the future of Xamarin Forms, and that it will be possible to use Blazor when you developing apps using MAUI, and MAUI will be released in November this year together with .NET 6. But you can already now use Mobile Blazor Bindings because there are an experimental project running by Microsoft. So if you want to read about that and how to get started, you can go to the docs.microsoft.com and you will search for Mobile Blazor Bindings, and there are a good walkthrough how to get started. On GitHub we have both all code available because it's open source and Microsoft loves open source nowadays. But here are also good sample projects. There are also some issues here where you have all the status of all converting controls, because all Xamarin Forms control needs to be converted to work with Blazor. We can also see here what components that are supported right now. So we have those components built in. We have content page, master detail page, tab page, template page. The one that most people use is probably content page. We have also the basic layout components, and we have a lot of views that are ported to Blazor Bindings. Or should you say they are bindings created for those components. One that is missing is the editor. I don't really know why, if it's hard to convert or if they just haven't had the time to do it yet. But it will probably be bind, because that's one of the basic controls, I think, for building an app is to have an editor. So I started yesterday to look how the process is to do the bindings. So they are a converter or a tool that you run to create generated code, and you also need to write a little bit of code yourself. So it will probably not be a big deal to create bindings for editor either. Then we have some specialized components. We have application, of course we need that. Formatted string, gestures, menu item, shell. That's interesting. Last time I streamed about Mobile Blazor Bindings, we don't had shell. I struggled a bit to get it working then, but now it looks like we have support for shell, and of course we should use that in our app. So let's get started. What you first need to do is that you need to install the project templates. I have already done that, but you do that with a simple .NET command. Then you can go here to build your first app. In this case, we will use the template for building a hybrid app, and that means that we can have Blazor web app running inside of our app. So we can have some web content shared with a website. So in later streams, we maybe will build a website too, where we share some of the components with the app. You can think about how Electron works, where you can have some parts native and some parts can be web content. So it's not running on a server, it's not WebAssembly. The web code is running inside of your app. So it's the same runtime, so you can share state between the web code and the app code. I think there are pretty good use cases for that. For example, if you have an app that has very common look on all platforms and you want to have a web version, you want to have a native app version, then you can use, for example, the native parts, the navigation, push navigation, and some views where you have specialized content that for apps. For example, if you have a list with items, you may want to have some swipe gestures on them and things like that. You don't need to have on the web version. But when you go to the details page, for example, if it's an e-com solution or it's a blog, you can use the same content as you did on the website. And that's great, I think. So let's create a new project. We use this command to do that. So we will open a terminal. Go to the correct folder, of course. Zoom a bit, and then we can do it like this. Oh, I have already created a folder inside of here for this project because I already created a backend solutions with some mock data that we can use. So what we will build is a e-com store. We'll build a app where you can buy fishing tackles. So it's named Tackle Store. Oh no, Tackle Store. Okay. We can do it like this instead. Tackle store.clients, because we will both have web and app clients here. And it's not a good idea to name things .app on a Mac because it will be handled like an app package in Finder. So the template experimental Mobile Blazor Bindings hybrid app was created successfully. Okay, let's open Visual Studio. Just give me a minute, I will open it. So here we have it. It's loading the project that was created via the terminal. I really hope that they will make Visual Studio optimized for my M1 soon, so it will be much faster. But it runs very, very good on Rosetta 2. It's as fast as it was on my old MacBook. Even if it seems to be a little bit tired today. But that's good, then we have a chance to drink some coffee. Strange. Let's quit it and restart it instead. What I did was change solution for an instance of Visual Studio that I already had open. That seems to be the problem sometimes. So we will open it again. Yeah, it's started on my other display. So I will soon bring it over to this main display. Okay, so it's loading again. Let's see if it works better this time. It looks like that. Yeah, okay. So now we can see that we have 5 projects created here. We have one Android project, iOS, Mac OS, and Windows. So when we're running this on Mac, we have to unload the Windows project. Otherwise, nothing will build. But we can have the Mac OS and Android projects available. We can try to run the app later on Mac OS. It will probably be the fastest way to develop, even if the iOS simulator is pretty fast as well. But we can start with Mac. So restore the packages, we need to do that. When waiting for that, we can go to this clients project and see the structure of it. So inside of this project for share code, we also have a web UI folder and a www route folder. So in this web UI folder, we have pages, we have the layouts for the website. We also have a app.razor that starts the app. Like this, you can see this is like the regular app if you're building a Razor web app. So we will restore the packages for this project as well. I do this manually to make sure that they restore correct. So we can try to run just run the template on my Mac. It will take a few minutes the first time, but it will be faster when it has built once. So hopefully it will work now. Last time I streamed about Blazor Mobile Bindings, there were a lot of problem with IntelliSense and the editor. Everything was marked as error. Even if it worked, it was marked in the editor as errors. And that seems to work much, much better now. So I'm happy about that. We can also take a look at how the app.cs file is created. It's like a combination of how you have an app file using Xamarin Forms and in a .NET Core .NET 5 app. So we have application as base class as in all Xamarin Forms apps. But we also have a host builder, in this case a Mobile Blazor Binding host, creating the builder. So we add Blazor hybrids to it, and we can also register app-specific services to it and use webroot to tell the runtime where we have the content for images, for example. Then we have a content page that is the main component, like the main page. So now the app have started. So it looks like this. It's like the standard Blazor page where you get when you're creating a web page. The big difference here is that we have a native part here, upside so that we can increment. And here we have web content. As you can see here on the counter, they're sharing the state. So you can access the state from both the web content and from the native content. But we will not work in this sample application because I don't like demos myself. That is just people running the sample content. So we will delete all of this and we will try to build our own app. So we will quit that. We can just take a look here how it's built. We have the Blazor web view, and that's where we place the web content. But for now, we will delete that and we will try to do some shell content here. So then we can go to some of these sample applications to see how they are using shell, because there should be one application here that using shell. For example, here we have the Shell Navigation Manager project. So we can set up our shell first, as we should do with the Xamarin Forms. And then we will set it like this in the app.cs file. So let's create an app shell. And we will do that in this shared project. It's not a shared project as with file copy, but it's the project for us to share code. So create a new file. And in this case, we'll create it as a Razor component, app shell, like this. And now I don't think we need that code stuff, so we can create, you can see how they did it. If they had tab, no, they have shell, of course, as the root element. Fly out behavior. can we also set to disabled, because I don't want fly out right now in this app. We will have a tab bar at the bottom of it. If you compare to if you have used Xamarin Forms with SAML, you have just wrote disabled here, but when we're using Blazor Binding, we also need to specify what enum it is. So we will do like this. Shell, and then we will add a tab bar. And to the tab bar, we can add different content. We probably don't need to have the tab option here, is if we want to have top tabs as well. So just add a shell content. Shell content, like this. Then we need to have a home page. So I wonder if home page is a page or a component. The home page and about query must have a content page as the root element to be used in shell. Okay, so it looks like they are handling that like this. Okay, so let's create a main page. Okay, put that in a page folder, new folder, pages, add new file, and do you remember, Razor component, we should not use the forms template, so we used ASP.NET Core templates and create a Razor component. Main page, like this, then we can use this content page, and what they had after that, yes, they just added okay, so content view. Okay, that's if they want to navigate to a page. Let's try to do it like this, otherwise we need to go and check the source. But we can add a stack layout, and we can add a label to it. Text hi, just to try, then we'll replace it with some real content. Okay, so let's go to the app.cs, and we will also add this code to have the shell be loaded when we start the app. So we replace this code with our shell. The name app host does not exist in the we should just use host. They have probably changed the template since they created the documentation. Let's try to run this, see if it works. So hopefully it's faster to compile now compared to the first time. It take a little bit of time, but yeah, as you can see, it's much faster this time. So let's see. Of course, it started on the other display. Yeah, and it looks like we have an error here. You cannot see the whole error, and neither could I, but it looks like it's a null reference exception. If we check at the locals window here, I cannot zoom inside of that as it seems. So we will instead go to GitHub and take a look at the source code to see how they solved this problem. So we go to samples here, then we can see what sample that was. Hello world to do with. Okay. Let's check again. What app this could be. Okay, hopefully here they have a direct link to it. So we can go inside of here. We can see that here they call it views. Monkey page. App shell.razor. We see what they have as the. They have the. Oh, the specificates page is in the shell. So take a look at the cats page, how they have created that. It's okay. So they have a content page exactly as we had. So that was strange. Wonder why it not worked for us. Scroll the content page. We don't need the navigation manager yet because we don't doing any navigation. Let's take a look here again if we have forgot something. Shell content, then they have cats page like this. We maybe forgot to specify that. So let's go to our app shell. Yeah, of course, we need to add our main page as well. So, okay, let's try to run this again. Okay, still some null reference exception. It would be good if we can have all the information on the same screen. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, let's see if it's related to the Mac OS platform. Maybe we should see if they wrote something about shell and what it's supported on. Shell navigation manager is maybe just supported on iOS or Android. Can't see anything about that, but we can try to run it on the iPhone simulator instead. Yeah, now we have to compile it for the first time again because it's on a new device, and it will also start the simulator. And starting the simulator is pretty fast, but compiling for the first time it can be pretty slow now. Okay, so we have a couple of build errors. We don't restored the packages for the iOS project, so I don't know why that not is done when building it, but now it should work when we do it manually. So we have to wait a bit again. So now you can see that the simulator was started. Yeah, here it is. Starting up, you can see the Apple logo here. Yay! I promise you it will not be this slow when we run it the next time on the simulator. What we can talk about when we're waiting is the Android emulator on M1. You cannot use the default emulators. You need to go and download the preview emulator for Android. Just search for Android emulator Apple M1. You will find it. It's on GitHub. It runs very, very fast. It's preview 3 now, and the only thing is that the Chrome browser not working, but it should work with web views in the emulator, for example. In preview 2, I read that they also had problems with the web view, but that is working now. In preview 3, I've tested it. Okay, so now you can see that the iOS app is up and running. So the reason that is not was running on Mac was probably because shell is not supported on Mac yet. But that will probably be changed when we have .NET MAUI released, because .NET MAUI will have a support for both macOS, Windows, iOS, and Android. And probably Samsung will support Tizen as well. But the Microsoft supported platforms are macOS, Windows, Android, and iOS, of course. So you can see we have now deployed our app, and we can see the hi label. So it's nothing fancy with that. If this was some reformed SAML we can use hot reload, but I don't think that will work with Blazor Bindings, but we can try. Can add a title to the tab. Okay, for example, it's a shopping app, so we will have a categories page maybe. Categories. No, it will not work. Title. Home, like that. So let's restart it instead to just see if the tab bar works with shell and Blazor Bindings, because this is the first time that I am using shell together with Blazor Bindings. But of course I have used shell a lot with SAML. I use it in all my apps. The apps that was developed before shell was released, I converted them to use shell because there are a few things that are really nice with shell, I think, especially the URL navigation. And my open source library for MVVM that is called TinyMVM is also supporting shell in a very good way. But we cannot use that now because we are using Blazor for building this app. So now you can see here that the tabs appeared, but we will have the same content because I added the same page twice. So let's go and create a real categories page instead. So we do it here, add a new class, eraser component, and categories page, like this. And of course you cannot have HTML inside of this component because it's a native component that we will use on the native side of this app. So we will remove that and we will replace it with a content page header so we can use it inside of shell. Then we will go back to the shell and we will replace main page with categories here. So we can add a label here too and a stack layout just to see if it works. Label text is categories. Then we can also add some padding to it. And in this case we'll do like this, new thickness 10. You can also compare that with not 100. Compare that with SAML where you only wrote 10. So you maybe think that Blazor is a little bit more verbose because you have to write new thickness as in this example. But I think it could be really nice to don't have the data bindings, because when you're working with data bindings, it can also be pretty verbose. You have to create your view models, and you have a lot of notification when things change going between the views and the view models. With Blazor, it's re-render the view every time something needs to change. So that I think that is pretty nice. It's also like this React, for example, works. So now we have our categories page, and we can see that we have padding, and on the home page we don't have any padding at all. Okay, so let's try to fetch some categories from my API. So we close the debugger, we go to the categories page. You can also add a service layer. So we don't need to have all our code inside of the component. Services, add. Categories service. Then we can do like this. I already created a backend, as I said, or maybe that was before I unmuted myself. Seems like I was on mute will be the sentence for 2021 as well, not just for 2020. So, but from the backend we will reuse the models, and in this case I will just add the existing project into my solution as well. in a later step, we maybe want to have the models as a NuGet package or a sub-module or something like that. But for now, I just add the project like this. So it's a .NET Standard project. And we will restore the packages for that project as well. And you can see that I have created a category model, or actually it's a record. And I also created a product, but now we will work with the category. If you wonder what this assembly info file is, it's just I added this code to make it possible to use C#9 and init in a .NET Standard library. That is the only thing you need to do to make C#9 work. And of course, you need to go to the project settings. If you're running on Visual Studio for Mac, to set it to latest major or version 9. I don't think you can do that in Visual Studio on Windows. Then you need to go to the project file, and of course you can do that on Mac as well. So just set lang version to latest major or 9. I also enabled nullable from C#8. So in this service, let's do it static for now. Later we maybe refactor it to have some interfaces and things like that. But yeah, I think it's nice to just focus on the UI code for now. So we add a static method task and we'll return a list of categories. Then we of course need to add reference to that project. Category like this, and we need to add some usings. System connect generics, yes. We need to add 13 tasks. Okay, so we cannot solve that reference, but we can be a little bit slow to not notice that we have added the reference to the project. So we will wait a bit with that. So like this. Okay, let's try again. So now we can use it. So as I said, I created a backend. It's just Azure Functions with mock data. So we are able to call that. So we create a HTTP client. And you all know that you should do like this. You should reuse your HTTP clients, but we can refactor for that later. So client.get string async HTTPS tackle store sites.net/API/Goris. Do you think I remember the right URL? We can try. We can go to copy it and go to the browser. Yes, I did. Okay, nice. Now we can use it. So this will only get us a string back. If you're interested to know response codes, for example, we can use just get async, and then we can take out the string from it later. And the string is of course a JSON string. So we name it JSON, and we also need an await async keyword up there, and the method header. I miss a semicolon, I think. Yeah. So now we need to convert this to objects. So we will do that with system text.json. So JSON JSON serializer, I think it's the name of that one. Yes, using system text.json dot deserialize to a list of category, and we will give it the JSON. Can also be a good idea to give it some JSON serializer options, because the system text.json don't work as, for example, Newtonsoft JSON are doing JSON.net. So you need to tell it to ignore cases. Property name case insensitive is true, like this. Then we can return. No, of course we need to assign it to a variable. Result. Return result. Okay, now we can go back to our categories page or categories component, but in this case the component is a page. Then we can do an override, exactly as we do with the Blazor when doing web development. So on initialized async, because our method in service was async method, not public. I think we should need to add protected keyword here. Protected. Let's see if I can spell to that as async, like this. And instead of returning the base method, we just await it. I prefer to have a base call of the call to base classes and base methods in the start of a method, because I'm thinking that I'm extending a method. So now we can do like this. Var categories categories is like categories service dot. You can also add a using up here, so we don't have to write the whole namespace. Using tackle store.clients.services. Then we can use category service, get categories. And of course we need an await here, like this now. Okay. Then we need to add a property, or it could be a field as well, but I prefer to have it as a property. It's maybe because I'm used to it when doing data bindings, that we should use properties for bindings. So list category. Let's import the namespace by adding using tackle store.models, like this. I can call it items in this case. And we assign it a value so we don't get any null exceptions. Yep, okay. So now we want to add content to the page, and we want to add the categories to the page. When we working with Blazor Mobile Bindings, we have to use stack layout for this, because we don't have the collection view component yet. I hope they will implement that in Blazor Mobile Bindings as well. But if you go to GitHub, you can see there are discussions about how to do that when we're talking about templating, because there are several ways you can do that. So in this demo, we will just use stack layout and add children to them. So inside of the stack layout, we can do a for each or category in items, like this. And then we can just create a label, text, category dot title, and hopefully it will show up on the screen now when we are running this. So let's try. Okay, we have some build errors in our components. Zoom out a bit so it'd be easier to see what is wrong. Of course, we need a semicolon, not a colon. So now it's working better. Yeah, it will take some time again. Perfect. For me to get some water. It took a really long time now. I wonder why. It don't used to take that long time to build the app. at least after the first time. But now it's starting. Does not crash. So we navigate to the categories page. I guess we have to wait a bit because in this case the function app need to wake up too, because it's a serverless and I had not used for a while. So, but it should not take that long. Okay, strange. We add breakpoints to see if we can debug the code. Maybe we need to have a state changed here, but we don't need that when we're building web apps with Blazor, but maybe we need that for mobile apps. So let's try to see if we get any data first. Okay, now we can see that initialize the sync is running. We're inside the get categories. Yeah, here we'll probably have a problem. We add an exception catch point to catch all exceptions. Then we restart. We need to restart because we don't have added any refresh functionality yet. So let's go. Okay, so no error yet. See that if it still works. Yes, it does. Okay. This is strange. We can try see if we have other overrides that we can use instead. Override. No on appearing as we have on when we're using Xamarin Forms with SAML, but we can also try to see on after render when that is triggered. Okay, so let's run this again. Okay, so we're inside of here. And after rendered is called already now. Okay, so it's not like to have on appearing. Strange. Okay, let's rewrite the code a bit. So we get sync instead, so we'll get the response object back. Response. So you can see, maybe you can see what's wrong. So now we need to read the JSON from the response object. Response.content.read a string async. Wait. We can also do like this now. If response dot is successful status code. If it's not, we can just return an empty list for now. Return new list category. Okay, let's debug this again to see what happens. Okay, so we're inside the method. Remove that breakpoint, set the breakpoint there instead. Okay, now we have a response. It's a 200. Okay, that indicates that we have a successful response. We also have JSON. We have a result back. Maybe some issues in the debugger. Okay, let's see if we also will get something visible on the screen? No. Okay. So that's of course we also need to set items as categories. Otherwise it will not work. So let's restart the app to see if it works better now. The chances are at least better that it should work now. I really hope that we will get the hot reload feature to Blazor mobile binding as well, so you can do changes in the UI, but you'll probably need to have a C# hot reload as they have in Comet to have a good user experience with that. So that's a really nice feature that they have in the Comet framework, that they have hot reload. But there are also other options, like I think it's Live Sharp, a third-party plugin. I don't know if it works on Visual Studio for Mac, but it should work on Visual Studio on Windows. Live Sharp. It's not free, but it can probably increase your productivity. I have not tried it. I used Live SAML that they had before from the same creator. Hot reload. Let's see if they say anything about what it works for. Installation. Okay. Yeah, I cannot see, but it should be pretty easy to install. Documentation. Operating system: Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. Okay, so it works with Visual Studio, Rider, and VS Code. Okay, that's nice. So if you want hot reload of C#, you can try that. But let's continue with our Blazor app. I think we soon have categories visible. Oh, woo! Ice fishing! And that is our only main category. To see the other categories, subcategories, we need to add some navigation to it and handle some click event or tap event. Maybe it's a better name when we're talking about a touch device. Okay, so let's go to the documentation to see how we can add that. And it's shell, so we can have URL-based navigation. Registering roads. So I think it can be a good idea to have a component for another component for categories, because in shell we want to have the page with but for other pages we maybe just need to have a content view as the base element, and we want to reuse it for all category levels. But let's see how we can do that. I think we need to add some code to the app file. So services add singleton. Okay, so we will register the navigation manager to the dependency injection container. So let's do that. Here, boom, boom. Shell navigation manager, and then we can inject it on the categories page, as you do in all Razor components. So shell, I need to check what namespace they have for that. Let's try with what Visual Studio suggests. Shell navigation manager. Okay, that's correct. It's not Xamarin Forms. Navigation is Mobile Blazor Bindings, so shell navigation. That's great. Navigation manager. Okay, so let's see how we can add gestures. If we have a button, it will be easy, but in this case we don't have a button, we have a label. And I don't think it will be good UI if we add a button either. Maybe we will add some other components with icons and things like that later, but we will not do that now. So see if we find any good examples to handle gestures. do up, bum, entry. Okay, stepper, no example on gestures. Okay. We have gestures. Okay, so we will do like this. We just add a tap gesture recognizer to it. Okay, so let's go here to categories page that we will probably break out to own component later. We will wrap this in a content page because we will make it a little bit more touch friendly. So we'll have a padding around the text. New thickness, and we don't want to add any more padding on the left side, so we will just do like this. We'll add some 5 pixels of padding below and above, like this. Then we move the text inside of that, and then we add a tap gesture recognizer to the content, not content page, content view, of course. Otherwise we will have problems. Content view, tap on tapped. Then we need to create a method to bind to. Private void, maybe. Let's try with void category tapped. Like this, and then we can go here and use it. Shoop. Category tapped. Okay, let's see if that works. Shoop. Yep. Close tab and restart it. Yeah, waiting. Okay, here we have some null reference error that we can read because it's outside of the display. So let's see if we can. Root cannot be an empty string. Okay, we maybe need to specify routes in the shell now when we have added the navigation manager. So let's try that. Route home, route get the rest to see if this will work better. Blazer Mr. Magoo says hello to YouTube. We will soon end this stream because I have to go to a meeting at 1 o'clock. But let's see if this will work first. No, we still have root problems. Root cannot be empty string. Okay, let's try to rebuild it, see if that can be the issue. I have had some problems with Visual Studio for Mac in some projects where I have to rebuild the app after each change, but it had not been necessary earlier today in this stream, so I don't know why I had to do that in that case now, but we can try to see if that will make things better. No, it will not. Okay, let's go to the documentation and see if we can find something more about shell and the shell navigation manager, if we need to add something more. Shell, okay, they don't have route specified there. Page. But this is a content view. It's not in the shell, but it's on the page where we... Okay, let's try to add this see if this will be better. But then we probably need to remove it from here. Categories page. We can add that at the top. I think can be good. Categories like this. Okay, let's try that. Otherwise, I think we will remove the navigation manager for now to see if the gesture recognizer works. Then we can continue to get the navigation manager working in the next stream. No, still problem. Okay, let's do that. Let's remove the navigation manager for today. Comment it away. That can remove that one. Also remove it from here to be sure that we don't have it. Okay. Hopefully it will work better now, and I think this is the last thing we will do in this stream. Waiting. Categories. Yep. I guess the recognizer works. Okay, so then we can add navigation here in the next stream. Thank you very much for watching this live streaming, and hopefully I will do this much more often than I had done so far. At least I will be back next week on Tuesday is my plan, but I also thinking about if it's possible to do the next stream already on Thursday. So I will do this 2 times a week, but let's see if I can make that happen. At least it's my plan right now, and hopefully it will work with my work schedule and work calendar. So if you're interested to follow me on this development of this app, you can please follow me on Twitch and also on Twitter at Hindrikes. So thank you for watching. See you next time.